This time I have a Sony RDR HX750. This is a DVD recorder with a hard drive. And the complaint on this is it won't play any discs. Now I had this in last year to replace a belt and lubricate the mechanism, but apparently it's got another problem. It's worked fine since last year and now it's acting up, so we're going to take another look at it and see what the problem might be. This time I've got a Sony RDR HX750. This is a DVD recorder. It has Firewire input, USB, PIC bridge, upscales to 1080. Record on DVD-R, DVD-RW, plus R, plus RW. Does them all. Does them all. Has a 160 gig hard drive in it. Apparently, the drive itself has a problem. It's not reading, so let's find out what it's doing. A nice scratched disc to put in it. We'll turn it on. And see what it does. And that's apparently all it does. It just sits there and goes jit 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 jit. It never loads. And then it ejects the disc. So it's not reading. We're going to pop this apart and see why. Hopefully it's nothing major. Hopefully it's something mechanical and it's not the drive itself that's burned out. So of course the hard drive is here. This is our optical drive. Pop the optical drive apart. These are lots of fun to get into. And yes, if this looks familiar, it's because I worked on it a while back. And it's acting up again. I forget what the problem was before, but it now has a drive problem. If I remember correctly, it was a belt that was changed out on this one. I guess probably, I don't know, 8-9 months ago. But I gotta pull the drive, pull it apart again, see why it's not working. Is something stuck? Word of caution, you have to pull this piece off first before you can remove the front panel, otherwise it won't come off. And I think you do have to take this off, if I remember correctly, to take the whole mechanism out, which means you got to do that before you start undoing plugs, otherwise you won't be able to remove it. So we have to undo these plugs, undo the hard drive plug. I got to pull the back off of it because I got to lift the deck out, the chassis out. So that means all the screws in the back have to come out as well. Once the back is off, the drive should lift out. Providing the screws have all been removed, which they have. You can now lift the drive out. Slide it back. And undo a couple more plugs from the bottom of the drive. It's probably going to be... That could very well be where the fault is on this. Is capacitors going bad. Certainly could. The fellow that brought it to me, he thinks it's mechanical, but it could very well be surface mounted caps that are crapping out. We're going to check them first before I dig into this thing any further and just see if any of these things are bad. 0.2. What's this one measuring? That one's bad for one. It's measuring open. Nope, it's not. It's not making a connection. 0.04. Okay, false alarm. That one could be starting to head up. 1.7. That one also could be starting to go bad. 0.5, that's probably okay. 0.1. 0.5. 0.02. 0.06. These ones are looking okay. 0.13. Yeah, these are all looking okay. Most of them. Most of them are looking okay. Now you might wonder why I use this ESR meter as opposed to, say, some of the newer ones that I've received over the last year or so. And that's because I built this one and I trust it. I know the readings that this one gives me. That's 47 at 6 volts. So 2.2, between 1.6 and 2.2, that's probably okay. This one here is measuring 7.5 ohms. This is a 10 at 16. So yeah, it's okay. I mean, 8 would be what you would expect, the worst case for a new cap. So those are still measuring really within spec. Remove the top. I want to check the lubrication on the rails and stuff and see if anything's dried up. The fellow that said it was working fine, and then one day it just wasn't working. That does come off, and now the top should also lift off on this. And we'll see if anything's sticking or appears to be sticking. I mean, the rail, if it doesn't appear to be dry, we'll put some lubricant on it and try it. And I'll clean off the lens. Some isopropyl. We'll put some lubricant on here. I mean, it's not dry, that's for sure. Like it's slippery, but I'll put some lubricant on it. Like nothing's sticking. I'll put a lube on there. I'm going to clean that laser, and then we'll try reading a disc. I'll pop it back in. Got to plug everything in, of course, to do it. It could be, it could be surface mounted caps. It could be mechanical too. I mean, the ones I checked on this side of the board, they're not measuring bad. So, and this is quite late model, so it should be after the cap plague, right? This should have been made after they had problems with caps. So we'll clean and lubricate. There's some isopropyl alcohol. We'll clean off the laser. I don't think that that's going to be the issue. But we'll clean the lens anyway. It looks clean. I'm going to put some grease on the worm screw and the two rails. Even though they do not appear to be sticking. These are the AV inputs. And I think this is the FireWire input, this one. FireWire and the input for USB. The wires into the little wire tray here. I'm not going to, I'm just going to put the grounding screws in at the back here, but I'm not going to fasten down or put the screws in the back yet. I'm not going to fasten down the drive until I test it. But I do have to plug things like the hard drive in, because it's not going to work without that. That should be enough there. Plug in the edge connectors. And the power for the hard drive. Okay, that should be enough. Whoops, don't want to pinch that wire. It's not pinched. That should be enough to power it up and test it and see if it'll read. So let's do that. That's who's making all that noise outside. That big bastard is back to terrify all the little dogs and cats of the neighborhood. Alright, I'll just close the drawer up. Grab the buttons for that. And there it is. It plays. So I got another one going. You know, the rails didn't appear to be dry, but all I did was grease them and clean the top of that lens off, and it's working. And you saw it before, it wasn't. So we got another one working. Let me throw this thing back together. Remove the disc for now. There we go. It's good as new. If I switch from the DVD to the hard drive, title list, got a list of all the titles he's recorded. Ah, here we go. Drag racing, cool. Yeah, these were great. These units are great, right? Because looks like it was recorded off tape. He's been transferring his VHS tapes. You can see the lines at the bottom from the erase head, where it was a blunt edit, as they call it. Been recording his VHS tapes onto the hard drive, which is what these machines are great for. These are a fantastic recorder. They're also a very good time-based corrector, by the way. These machines, you can plug your video source in, and they will do full time-based correction, and it'll spit out an HDMI signal that you can then record on an HDMI capture device and get fantastic quality recordings. I will do a video on that upcoming. I'll take some tapes. I'll make some tapes with intentional time-based errors. It will start out as good footage, and we'll record it onto tape, EP speed or something, and make multiple generation copies. And I can show you how bad the tapes will play on the TV. And then I'll proceed to capture the different generations using different techniques, using just a straight capture card onto the computer, for example, with no time-based correction, and then loop it through one of these DVD recorders and show the difference that just looping it through does, and capturing on different hardware, some with built-in time-based correction, some without, and show you that you really don't need a TVC. A TVC is not required to digitize if you've got hardware that can do it. And one of the quickest and dirtiest ways to get a TVC is to find one of these DVD recorders. Even if you don't record onto DVD, it's still a great way to digitize. Let the hardware in the box do the job. When I digitize, I use one quite often because I have clients that not only do they want a USB copy, but they want a physical copy on DVD. So I can loop it through my DVD recorder and make a physical DVD at the same time as I'm taking the HDMI output from it and capturing that on my capture card. Now they've got a physical DVD and they've got it on a USB stick. That's kind of the best of both worlds. For those that still want DVDs, there's people right now that say, oh, I got rid of my DVD player, I don't want anything on physical media. I think that's kind of dumb myself, because you could lose data on a USB stick or a hard drive. I always back everything up to both an optical disc as well as USB media. And for those that say DVD discs don't last, well, I beg to differ on that one, because I have DVD recordable discs that I made 25 years ago and they still play today. So for those that say that an optical disc is garbage in 5 years, well, I guess you are buying shitty discs, because I've got plenty of discs that are 25 years old. I recorded them in 1999 or 2000 when the DVD recorders first hit the market with my DMR E20, and they play perfect today. Played fine for a disc, and I put another disc in and I played it. And I put another disc in and it played for a while and then froze. And it seems to be stuck. I don't know I don't think it's the disc that's at fault. I put a stamp disc in and it froze. So maybe it's because it's cold. Maybe the temperature in here in the workshop is just causing this problem. But it still appears to have a problem. So I have to investigate this and see why. First thing I'll do is I'll put my heat on it. I'll throw some heat onto it with my heat gun. I'll open it up and just throw some heat onto the thing and see if it starts playing. Maybe it's just because it's pretty cool out here right now. That might be why it got stuck, but it certainly did get stuck after it played through a few times. I got the heat on in here now, as you can hear, because it's cold. It's only like 6 degrees in the workshop right now, so I got the heater blasting to try to warm it up a bit in here. I'm going to heat the box up a bit though and see whether it starts playing or whether we've got another problem. Maybe it is those caps that are going bad. Maybe the laser pickup is going bad. Something's not making it happy, that's for sure. The disc is spinning and you can hear the laser, although it's not freezing cold. It's not super warm though. So I'm just going to throw a bit of heat with the heat gun onto the unit itself. Not getting in too close with it, but I just want to warm the unit up a little bit and see whether it will start playing again once I bring the temperature up, because it could be just from the cold, or it could be one of these stupid caps in the focus or servo circuit that's just giving us trouble. It could be the optical pickup too, for that matter, but it did play for a while. I played a disc through. I played my my test disc all the way through, then I put another disc in and I let it play through. I put this disc in, I put it on auto repeat, and it came out a little while later and it was frozen. I said, what the heck? So we're just going to try to warm this thing up just a little bit and see whether it will resume playback. If it starts playing on its own once I bring the temperature up, then it might just be that it was too cold and the grease, got the viscosity of the grease went up. That's always a possibility. Otherwise, I'm going to have to pull this thing apart again, which I'm not looking forward to. This is why I run these things, right? When I test, like when I repair equipment, the end of the video doesn't necessarily mean the end of it. I test things usually for several hours on the bench before I send them back, just to make sure that things are working. At least I try to test them all for several hours. In the case of VCRs, I'll try to run a couple tapes through end to end and check them out. And DVD players, I'll put them on auto repeat and let them sit for a couple days and make sure they're still playing. And that's what I was doing on this, is I had it on repeat and I was just going to let it run and make sure there was no problem. And of course, a problem shows up. So I'm just going to heat this up for a bit and see whether I can get it to start playing again. If it starts playing once I warm it up a bit, then it might just be a heat related problem. But I'm just going to keep doing this for a bit and warm it up, see what happens. Otherwise I'll be taking it apart again. You can hear the laser seeking back and forth. So I don't think it's a problem with it sticking, because I can hear it moving, and this is now warm. It's not hot, but it's warm, so the heat should penetrate down into the mechanism itself. So this might be a laser that's getting weak on this unit. The very fact that it froze up. Now if I stop it, what will happen if I try starting? I'll show you guys the screen. So let's just try putting it in pause. Does anything happen? Where am I doing? What buttons? I don't even know what buttons to push on this stupid thing. It looks like it's locked up almost. Stop. What does stop do? Stop stops it. Resume play. And it freezes right in the same place. I don't think my disc is damaged, but we'll look at the disc. The disc doesn't look to be, it's got a few scratches, but come on. That should not affect playback. A few scratches like that. I'll try another disc. So this time I'm going to try one of my Abbotsford Abbotsford Air Show discs. And we'll see if this one plays. Okay, let's let it play. And we'll see if this one will play through. Maybe it was the disc that was bad, but I gotta test it. I gotta run this and make sure that it's gonna play. Last thing I want to do is send it out and have it come back because it's not playing properly. This was one that was recorded. I think this was recorded on my DMR E20. It was recorded a long time ago. I remember that much. I can actually search out. There's an index every 5 minutes, so I can search forward. Okay, I'm going to let it play. I'm just going to play it from the beginning. And turn on the display. Might help if I push the right button. Alright, I'm just going to let this thing play here. Maybe it was just that disc. Because it did go through the other disc and it seemed to get hung up on that Friends disc when it was playing. So I'm just going to let this one play. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it has a problem. But I thought maybe it was because I turned the heat off when it was playing and it cooled down in here. Now I've warmed the machine up a bit. Maybe it's going to be okay. It might just have been the cold, although that disc itself may have a problem in it as well. Didn't appear. It wasn't like it was excessively scratched or anything. But we'll let this thing play and see what happens. Well, it's been going for about 24 minutes now, no problem, so we'll just continue to monitor it here. Might have been it was too cold, and warming it up now has fixed that problem. I guess I'll find out. But this is why I extensively test everything that comes through here, because I want to make sure that things aren't going to come back a day later because it hasn't been tested. Because one of the things I used to lock horns with the guy I used to work for, was because he didn't believe in bench testing anything more than a couple minutes. If it was working after 10 minutes, it was time to send it out. And that was, when you got something that's intermittent, that was the wrong way to deal with intermittent problems. The correct way, of course, is to extensively test. But when time is money and sitting on the bench, I can understand why he didn't want to have stuff sitting around testing, was just because bench space is limited, and with work coming in faster than we could do it, he just wanted to get stuff out and get it set away. And a lot of times that was fine. If you had a problem, you could replace a blown part that you knew was blown. But there's other times where things had intermittent problems and they required bench testing, and this is one of those that I was working and then it stopped. Why? Maybe the disc, maybe that copy of Friends that was in a machine that somebody gave me was bad. I generally try to test with DVD plus R or DVD dash R or even RW discs, because they're typically harder to read than pressed discs. So typically, if you're going to have a problem, you're going to have a problem on a burned disc, just because of how the discs are produced. Stamped discs are generally a little easier to read, but there were defects. There were lots of discs out there that were pressed on old stampers or so forth, because the stampers that they press the disc with, eventually they would wear out. So sometimes you get a stamped disc that wouldn't play, other times it would, and you get one disc that might play in one player and not play in another properly. But the acid test is generally playing burned discs, because they are harder to read to begin with. If a player will play a burned disc without a problem, then you shouldn't have a problem with anything else. In theory, anyway. But it's still going. An hour and 16 minutes in, it has not stopped. So I have a sneaking suspicion that my fears were not realized here. It really is not a problem. It was either that disc was bad, or it was just because I didn't have the heat running in the garage. It got cold because it's cold outside, and it just didn't like the cold because it's still going strong. So I'm going to say this one's a success. It's a good thing I tested it and just give it extensive test running, but it's been running fine here. So I'll say thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.